Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today said the timing of the BBC documentary is not accidental and called it politics by another means as he denounced the narrative in the foreign media about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. There's a phrase, war by other means, is what he said. Think of it, this is politics by other means. Politics by other means. In fact, later on, went on to assert that if these were forces, he was talking about the Western media, which wanted to do politics, they shouldn't hide, they should come out openly and play that political game. Let's play out various excerpts of what he said. We'll play out one excerpt, introduce my panel, and then we'll play out more excerpts later on.
But let me tell you one thing. I don't know if election season has started in India and Delhi or not, but for sure it has started in London and New York. What is it we are debating? We are not debating just a documentary or a speech that somebody gave in a European city or a newspaper edit somewhere. We are debating actually politics which is being conducted ostensibly as media, so there is a phrase, war by other means. There is also, think of it, this is politics by another means. But you'll do a hatchet job. Then you want to do a hatchet job and say, well, this is just another quest for truth which we decided after 20 years to put out at this time. So I mean, come on, you think the timing is accidental? It's like drip, 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 like water on stone. The whole idea is to shape your image, your collective image. Shape it in a way in which you're made to look extremist, you're made to look unreasonable, you are made to look as though, you're not part of this, what is otherwise a great, good, progressive world. Okay. Now, it happens in different ways.
All right, well, joining us now, Suhasini Haider, Ashutosh, Dr. Rajdeep Roy, Lok Sabha MP of the BJP, Jyotimani, Lok Sabha MP of the Congress, and former Foreign Secretary Kanwal Sibal. Suhasini, let me come to you first. Is it election season which has started in London?
Well, I as a journalist, I've been trying to parse all the words of the External Affairs Minister. And I think there will need to be more clarifications of just what he meant. Does he mean that there's election season going on in the UK? Is this about UK internal politics?
No, Suhasini, I heard it very carefully. And let me explain my interpretation. I think it's very, very clear that he said that we have not, and in fact he said it in as many words, that the election season, the poll campaign for 2024 in India has not begun, but it seems to have started in other parts of the world. And he named London, saying that there is a political agenda by the media over there, and then he also said that, look, it's politics, and if they are playing that game, they should say so clearly.
As I said, I think there will need to be more clarification because the External Affairs Minister was being perhaps diplomatic, perhaps being discreet, perhaps not spelling it out quite as clearly. What he seems to be suggesting is that there is an international conspiracy, that conspiracy involves not just the media, it involves investors like George Soros, it involves the short-selling research firm in America like Hindenburg. And he seems to be indicating that they have people inside India as well who they are working with. But it doesn't seem very clear at whose behest all of this conspiracy is happening. I find it a little strange because this is definitely being seen as India's year internationally as the host of the G20, the host of the SCO. We have the German Chancellor coming here. There's the Italian Prime Minister coming here. Prime Minister Modi is reportedly being invited to the US as a guest of state, a state guest over there. So I'm a bit puzzled by why the External Affairs Minister seems to be worried or insecure or thinking that India is under attack from some kind of an international conspiracy. And if this international conspiracy is powerful enough to have the External Affairs Minister to speak at such length about it, then maybe he needs to make a more clear statement to the nation about what kind of threat India is actually facing clearly he believes it's coming from the West at this time.
Okay.
And I think he needs to also be a little clearer about just, when he talks about the BBC, for example, does he think the BBC is working for an Indian party? Does he think it's working for the British government? Because, of course, it does work underneath the British government's media ministry. Or does he think that the BBC is working for a different political party within the UK? So I think there needs to be more clarity. Also, are the raids that he's talking about on the BBC in the last week, surveys as they're called by the government, are those surveys a coincidence? Are they timed along with the BBC's airing of this documentary in other parts of the world? Of course, they're not available in India. So I think a lot of this needs to be unpacked. Hopefully, there will be a more clear statement from the External Affairs Minister about just what kind of a threat India is facing today.
Ambassador Sibal, where is the conspiracy? I mean, what is the link that says the BBC is associated with all the other things which are taking place, question marks on India? The Washington Post comes out with articles, the New York Times comes out with articles, there's the Hindenburg report, etc., etc. If the allegation is that it's a conspiracy, he's not been able to draw the links, has he?
Well, he not used the word conspiracy, so why are we using this word? I mean, this word is intended.
Politics. He said it's politics.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So why using the word conspiracy? Because the moment you say that,
so let me rephrase. Let me rephrase my question and say politics instead of conspiracy.
Exactly.
Are these all politically motivated forces working together?
Of course, it's the fact. You know that in the last elections, the Economist said that don't vote for Modi. The Time magazine said don't vote for Modi. After that, there's a series of attacks, how democracy in India is backsliding, how human rights are being violated, how minorities are being targeted, how India has fallen low in world indexes on all fronts, including press freedom, on religious freedom and everything else. There's a constant campaign going on. And it is there. If you don't want to see it, it's a different matter.
No, they're all working together.
Of course, they're working together. How is it that there is no discordant voice? Whether it's the German media or the French media or the UK media or the US media.
So they're all biased against India on the basis of politics that they're doing together.
Hold on. They all sing the same tune. And you are assuming that it's only in the hands of government to do that. It's not that. They're very powerful economic forces, political forces, civil society forces, ideological forces. All these are working there behind the scenes, sometimes in collaboration with the government, sometimes not in collaboration with the government because they have their own agenda. Like the World Economic Forum has an agenda of its own. They want to take the government out of so many spheres of decision making and leave it to the corporate sector. So this is what is happening.
Okay, one sec, Ambassador, one sec. Let's get a response.
Finally, let me complete this. Now, Soros says very clearly, he spells out his intentions that Modi, we have to do something about Indian democracy and revive it. And Modi is a stranglehold on Indian democracy. He wants Modi to be weakened. He's made it very clear. So why are we surprised at this?
Okay, Jyotimani, Lok Sabha MP of the Congress, respond that these are various forces. They may be disparate, but they're all working together and they're politicking against India.
See, these are all conspiracy theories. Actually, a weak government, a government which failed in all fronts, the government which faced the ire of the people can only come up. The same BBC, the same foreign media which they are vilifying now, being praised by the none other than Mr. Narendra Modi ji when he was a Gujarat CM. So these are all the credible, unlike section of media in India, these are all the credible media houses which is very vocal against any government, whether their own government. In the past even they have criticized the Congress government as well. So you should see what is the fact they are saying. So it's about Gujarat riots. It's Hindenburg report about saying about the Adani conglomerate. So when the follow-up reports are coming in New York Times and other medias based on the Hindenburg report. So why do you suddenly see a conspiracy in it? You are quoting the same medias which they said Modi was in the cover of their medias. You're saying Modi ji was in the top nation leader in the world. So these are all the things when it suits you, convenient to you, then you say they are great. You want Indian people to believe all these things. When it's not convenient to you, they are speaking the bitter truth.
Okay.
They are exposing you completely. Then you are actually afraid of facing the truth. You try to deviate. I like to tell one thing. See, the people are no longer fools. We have seen Bharat Jodo Yatra, how Rahul Gandhi get a support, how people came and complained against this government in all fronts. So now they are actually finding it. The election season is not started by the foreign nation. The election season is started by none other than Narendra Modi ji and the BJP and the RSS. Now they have no achievement to project among the people. So
Okay.
they are coming with the conspiracy theories,
all right.
nothing else.
Dr. Rajdeep Roy, respond to that last point that's mentioned, that this government doesn't have anything to show for itself, so they're coming up with conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah. I was listening very attentively to all the speakers just prior to me. And I must answer to Ms. Jyotimani from the opposition bench in the parliament. It's very interesting to listen to her saying that there has been no achievement. Whereas the last 8.5 years of Modi ji's government, if I look at, or from every aspect, from economics, this thing, such a huge rise in the GDP.
No, but Dr. Roy, why
when
don't
all
you talk about the immediate topic? And the immediate point she is saying is, you know, the foreign conspiracy has been sort of thought up right now. It's not really there.
No, if you read between the lines of Jaishankar's interview with the podcast and all, it is very important to understand and read between the lines. He has said in no uncertain terms that the election campaign for all these parties have already started from offshore. And it is very interesting. If we extrapolate those, whatever the foreign media is saying, in the Indian context, you will see that the few of the parties and few opposition leaders are speaking along the same lines. Why is it that only few leaders, specifically Rahul Gandhi ji, speaking along the lines of what Soros is saying, what BBC is saying, and what New York Times and Washington Post is saying? It is very important to understand that and all. Their agenda is they are not in a position to digest today the growth pattern that Narendra Modi ji is showing, or the achievements that Narendra Modi ji is showing, right from infrastructure development to the realm of railways, roadways, in every field, in direct benefit transfer, in digitalizing the economy, in giving a digital infrastructure to the country, in empowering the women, in thinking about the health sector of the country. On every front, our government is performing to the best. And this is what the foreign sources, the foreign agencies are not being able to digest. And Mr. Soros, who has the notoriety, it is not his naivety to talk about Indian democracy. It is his notoriety that is making him talk about the Indian democracy, which is not being able to handle. India is a rising powerhouse today, and India is in a position to challenge all the other powerhouses in the country. And you have seen in the last few days the Airbus and the Boeing deal that has been done. It has actually galvanized the countries like USA, UK, and France. They are talking of job sector being,
all right. No, Dr. Roy, you make your point quite clearly about India's economic progress. Ashutosh, what Dr. Jaishankar also said, and we heard a bit of it, drip, 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 drip. The shape and the image of India is deliberately tarnished by these Western forces to become an extremist and unreasonable country. Some of those words are mine, but many of the words he used. And then later on he also spoke about an echo chamber which exists. Apparently that echo chamber extends from here to these Western nations abroad or not, or the BBC media, Soros, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
And this is how the image of India is deliberately misrepresented. How do you see that?
See, Vishnu, if you carefully read the words which has been used by the government in the last few years, it's a classic case of schizophrenia. When the government gets schizophrenic, there is a serious issue. And why I'm saying so? Now this schizophrenia was only focused about the internal politics in this country. There was words used like Tukade Tukade gang, the Khan Market gang, the anti-India, anti-national, left liberals, and the termites and the internal enemies. These are the words which has been used not by some small politician. These are the words which are used by the people who occupy the highest constitutional post in the country. So if opponents belong to the Tukde gang, they can be called as a Khan Market gang, then you can understand. Now this schizophrenia has extended to the outer world. And this is not just this is not just a coincidence. My submission is either the government is too nervous for 2024 or the government wants to build a narrative for the 2024 elections because it does not have answer for the Adani issues. It does not have answer for the price rise, doesn't have answer for the unemployment, doesn't have answer to many other issues. The world can ask a question during the pandemic, when 7 crore people got under the poverty line, why 80% belong to India? 5.6 crore people gone under the poverty line in India. Today, there is a serious crisis of unemployment, but the government doesn't want to listen to this.
Okay.
There is a serious crisis about the Adani issue. Government doesn't want to listen to. So obviously, like Mrs. Gandhi, when she got paranoid in the mid-70s, she created a foreign hand. Or Rahul Gandhi, when they faced with the Bofors, created a foreign hand. Similar situation is like this. But this government is more schizophrenic than any other government. Mr. Kamal Sibal can go and defend it.
All right, just 1 second. Mr. Sibal, I will come to you next. Before that, let's listen into part 2 of some of the excerpts which we picked on what Dr. Jaishankar said.
The bulk of international papers, especially the Anglosphere papers, but all of them, how many of them tell you 370 was a temporary provision? I challenge you to show me one. They don't. It's written there in bold letters, in capital letters in the Constitution. And there is a very strong bias. I mean, let's be frank about it. Newspapers, there are newspapers, I don't want to go into names, who will publish something absolutely ridiculous on one side and you say, okay, I want to counter it. They say, no, hang on a moment, I'm busy doing a fact check on what you are saying. So we saw this bias very, very clearly over the last 4 years.
All right, a bias which is clear over the last 4 years. Ambassador Sibal, would you like to, add something to that? That, I mean, again, the question similar to what I asked you last time. Everybody seems to have a bias against us. I mean, are we so insecure, sir, about ourselves? We seem to be doing so well economically.
Nothing to do with insecurity. It's just stating what is happening, seeing the trend. Ultimately, it's not all these papers or Soros or anybody else who's going to decide the 2024 elections. It's the people of India.
Precisely, sir. It's not Soros who's going to decide the election.
What is happening is that the external forces want to support those internal forces which want to displace the present government from power, and especially Mr. Modi. That is the angle. It is not entirely in the hands of the foreign forces to do that. Not at all. But they are creating an atmosphere internationally. And then, of course, their objective also is to make it difficult for India to rise economically as fast as we would want to do, because they're creating misgivings about the directions in which India is heading.
But sir, doesn't India's economic growth actually support them?
You let others speak without interruption, so let me speak. Now, there is this phobia in the West about nationalism. And on that you add Hindu nationalism, then, of course, they go berserk. Because, first of all, they don't like Hinduism because they don't understand Hinduism. There are deep-seated prejudices against Hindu religion, which dates back to many centuries. So let's forget about that. But nationalism strikes a very negative chord there. And if they can use this phrase to describe the present government, then they shape the narrative about India and shape the thinking of the academics, the civil society, and everything else, in the hope that somehow this will destabilize the present government. But it's not going to happen, because the success of the government, as I said, will depend on how the public judges its performance. And the last point I want to make is that is our press saying that Biden should not be re-elected, or Johnson should not come back, or this German Scholz, he's a disaster, he should not be allowed to continue in power? Do we interfere in the internal affairs of other countries and tell those people how they should govern themselves, how their democracy is sliding? Or is there any combination of India and some other developing countries which make the same points so that we can argue that the reverse is also happening? No. So why is it that in the Anglo-Saxon world, they keep targeting India, and our local lobbies, in which Mr. Ashutosh is also very much part, actually derive a lot of political mileage as much as they can from this, and they don't reject this narrative.
Okay, Ambassador, let me come in for half a second. Sir, respectfully, I know, Ashutosh, give me 1 second. Suhasini will have to wait because, Ambassador, very respectfully, one of the reasons Indian media doesn't have much of a say in all these countries that you named is because Indian media is hardly abroad. We just have literally a handful of correspondents abroad, which speaks very poorly about our media, but that's a fact.
No, but you can do it here on your TV channels, in your written
so
press.
So when do we not criticize
press,
anybody? We discuss
nobody
all
does,
issues.
But nobody does it.
We are insular in our thinking in the media.
The international impact of this. At least make your views known.
All right. Ashutosh, go ahead. Then Suhasini. Ashutosh, go ahead.
I'm very happy that the Kamal Sibal is calling me that a part of the cabal which is conspiring against the government.
You mentioned my name, that's why I'm reacting, Mr. Ashutosh.
Echo chamber is also the word that is used, Ashutosh. It's
I know who has used the word echo chamber to begin with. The problem, I said the problem is that the Kamal Sibal is a foreign policy expert and he's been a foreign secretary. I have no quarrel with that. The problem is that he is still living in the Cold War era.
Come on. I'm not a dharna expert like you. Who looks at every possibility to protect himself from the political state. Come on, don't be personal. Don't be personal.
Sir, I did not disturb you. I said there was a time in the Cold War when the Americans were looking for KGB everywhere.
Come on. The Cold War ended in 1991.
Soviets were looking CIA everywhere. The fact of the matter is, today the world is more open. And today we are living in an era where whether you are a nationalist or nationalist doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is India is a growing economy. India should be more confident about its potential. Should be more confidence about its intellectual depth. It should not be looking enemies everywhere. Like the Americans used to look about KGB everywhere, and the Russians used to find CIA everywhere. MI150. India has to be more confident. Today, this government doesn't show that confidence. That's the problem. A nervous government only finds enemy everywhere, like Tukade gang in the country and the Khan Market gang in the country. We are also equally the patriots of the country. We don't need any certificate from Mr. Kamal Sibal or from anybody.
All right, okay, gentlemen, let's not get personal now. Okay, wait. Let me quickly. No, one thing. That is okay. Suhasini, go ahead.
No, in fact, this debate is only showing us how much more clarity is required from what External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has said today. He is not a party apparatchik. He's not someone who's going to take part in these debates, but he is the External Affairs Minister of India. And if he is speaking about the idea that there are foreign agents who constitute a threat to India, then he needs to be clear. He's not talking, for example, directly about a government, or is he? Is he saying that the BBC that works it works under the British government, it's an independent media authority, but is he saying that the BBC is working for an Indian political party? Is he saying that these American outfits and this Hungarian investor are powerful enough that the External Affairs Minister of India needs to take them on with all the resources he has at his disposal? I'm beginning to just wonder how we can continue to have a debate without actually knowing what he's saying. The gentleman there said, read between the lines. I'm afraid when it comes to the External Affairs Minister of India, we can't read between the lines. It has to be said very clearly what he constitutes as a threat to India today. And whether he thinks that one television channel, one investor, one research firm in the US is equal to the kind of threat that he needs to take on in this very, very pointed and decided way. He seems to be implying that India is actually not what we see it as a confident, secure, popular country around the world, known for its democracy, known as a pluralistic, secular country that is looked up to by everyone, including in India's own neighborhood. Is he saying that is not the image of India around the world? Or is he saying that these are simply pinpricks, in which case, why is he even referring to them?
Okay, more clarification needed. Let's play out the last segment. And then, Dr. Roy, I'll come to you next. And then Jyoti Mani, and we'll wrap up this debate. Let's listen in to what Dr. Jaishankar said. Yeah.
I just look at the budget of the border infrastructure. During the Modi period, the budget has gone up 5 times. You know, till 2014, roughly it was 3,000, 4,000 crores was the budget. Today it is 14,000 crores. If you look at the roads which are built, you look at the bridges that are built, they have doubled or tripled. You look at the tunnels which are taking place. I mean, this government is serious about border infrastructure. You know, somewhere we are being accommodative. I mean, I ask people, if we were being accommodative, who sent the Indian army to the LAC? Rahul Gandhi didn't send them. Narendra Modi sent them. Okay? We have today the largest peacetime deployment in our history.
All right. So, in fact, let me get Jyoti Mani to reply and then get Dr. Rajdeep Roy to respond to her. The point is, and he's mentioned this earlier on in this interview elsewhere, he says, why didn't the Congress 25 years ago build up infrastructure on the borders? What stopped them? It's a fact.
See, we have built. See, you should not forget that Indira Gandhi divided Pakistan and won the war and created
we are talking about the LAC.
Like
let's not talk about Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Listen. I cannot say what you want. I can only say the fact, right? So, without building an infrastructure, without strengthening the army, how it was possible? When Manmohan Singh government, Indian army was become the third largest economy in the world, 4th largest military. So, it's someone like External Affairs Minister cannot come with wrong facts. Second thing, what I'm saying.
No, but what are the wrong facts? Jyoti Mani, I have to fact check you. Ma'am, respectfully, I'm only interrupting you because I need to fact check you. How can you make the argument that you can fight a war or be defended without infrastructure?
Without an army, listen, without an army, without a strong equipments, how we can win war?
How we can't win war, ma'am.
It's like cinema,
we can't
you
win
can
war
give,
without strong
Narendra Modi ji,
and infrastructure. Ma'am, we cannot. That's the key point.
You cannot speak.
So why didn't you build infrastructure along the LAC 25 years ago?
So, listen. Second, actually, when it comes to army, when the safety of the country, people like External Affairs Minister should be bipartisan. So that is a basic lesson actually he has to learn. Second thing, what I'm saying, I still repeat my charge. See, there is no economic growth. Country is in the 45 years of highest unemployment. Manmohan Singh ji government lifted 25 crore people out of poverty. Modi ji government again put them into 23 crore people, put them into poverty. This is the growth. That's why people of this country wanted Rahul Gandhi ji, Congress party to replace this government. We are going to replace this government because this government is anti-people. We don't need any external hands to do that job. Second, the fact is whether foreign media said, Indian media said or somebody said, see whether this government went out of the way to help Mr. Adani to build his empire. Yes or no? That's as simple as that. Why actually all the airports, port, all strategic assets given to one businessman in this country without any following any rules.
All
we
right.
are not against anybody
These are
doing
questions
business,
raised in Parliament, but I'm running out of time.
One-man hand. Why is Narendra Modi doing this?
All right. Okay. Dr. Roy, you've got about 3 minutes left. Please wrap this up. Do respond to the point she's made.
Yeah. First of all, LAC, leave aside building infrastructure for the last 25 years or more so during the time of Manmohan Singh between 2004 to 2014. When the country was going through a period of policy paralysis. Leave aside building infrastructure in borders in the entire sub-Himalayan belt. In fact, the patrolling posts were withdrawn. And I, being a person from the northeastern part of the country, I know what was the infrastructure during those days in the northeast. Leave aside building roads. The dilapidated condition of the fences, the dilapidated condition of the roads were existing during those times. Today you go on the LAC, on the border, you can drive in your four-wheeler at 80 miles per hour all along the border.
Then how come
this is
China
the level of
occupies
infrastructure that Modi ji and his government is building. I was not interrupted, ma'am. At least extend that courtesy to me. So what was the unwritten law? Unwritten law. If you go through the book of Pranab Mukherjee, the ex-president of our country, he said there is an unwritten law in the country that China is not to be discussed and all. It was not discussed, and Congress started the policy of not discussing China in the floor of the House, and it was Congress policy when they were giving leeways to China as far as post 62 policies were concerned. But India government under the leadership of Modi ji has started building up infrastructure till the border. And we have seen also, as far as the Adani question she has raised, Adani did business in Australia when Manmohan Singh was in power. Adani started building up businesses in the Middle East when Manmohan ji was in power, in East Africa when Manmohan ji was in power. So what happened? Adani started, the growth of Adani started during the days of Congress government. Now that why all of a sudden Adani and Modi ji's liaison is being talked about by people like Soros and the BBC. They have no other good business to do. They have known for all the negative things they have done for all the banks and the governments all across the country, and all of a sudden, it's a fear psychosis that
all
is
right, it's a fear psychosis being carried out.
Last point that I would like to respond, just last 30 seconds, I would like. The Western media, especially certain newspapers, this is for you, Mr. Vishnu, and all the journalists of your class who are there. The New York Post, the Washington Post always addresses Modi ji's government as the Hindu fundamentalist government of Narendra Modi. Do you people in India have ever the courtesy of extending this, so-called saying the UK government and the US government as the Christian government of that country? Have you ever written it in our newspapers? No, you have not written it. So these are the people, if you give them a blow on the return, I think they are the ones who will be able to, give relevance to your country and our country. Today, India is a rising economic power. This is the reason they are actually trying to pull us down.
India is a rising economic power. That's why they're trying to pull us down. I'd like to leave it at that. I'm out of time. I suspect there's a lot more in Dr. Jaishankar's comments today in that interview that we need to look at very closely.